Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm Ozzy.
And I'm Zack.
Together, we've built multiple businesses, including Advertis, where we've helped over 300 marketing agencies scale smarter, grow faster, and escape the chaos that most agency owners get stuck in. In this podcast, we basically break down real conversations of agency owners and what they're actually talking about currently, whether it's sales, operations, hiring, scaling, leadership, wins, failures, all of it. Today, we're talking about the end of year dread of sales. The end of year dread.
Disgusting.
Zack and I actually just got back from our treacherous mountain trip that I basically got serious altitude sickness on and barely made it back to manage the sales of 2026. So,
but you made it. We made it from Mount Beardstadt. It was fine.
You know what? Quick little tip on that. If you are a mountaineer or you love backpacking or anything outdoors, if by chance you live at sea level, do not go to 14,000 feet and the next day.
Maybe give it more than 24 hours.
Unless you have a big mouth and then you breathe a lot, then maybe.
I was fine. I'm just saying, Oz. I don't know what the problem was, but you were struggling. And you've ridden like 120-mile bike rides before, and you've climbed mountains before in Appalachia and the Smokies. But yeah, that Denver altitude did not serve you well.
No. I thought Zack was going to have to carry me down that mountain. And he said, well, you can do it. It was definitely humbling. But no. I mean, to Zack, to your point before we hit record here, we're talking about, fourth quarter, usually sales tends to drop off in a service-based business because of the holidays. Everybody tends to, kind of dial it back a little bit. If you have a prospect or, a client that's on the fence of closing here soon, you might want to get it closed as soon as possible, because if not, you're going to wait till the beginning of the year to get that thing closed, basically. And, I actually had my meeting with the sales team this morning. We have a Monday huddle every morning to go through our HubSpot deals. And I'm literally telling everybody's asking, like, is this the week that everything closes down? Like, no. It's usually right after Thanksgiving, like 2 weeks leading into January. Those last 2 weeks, forget about it. But I actually argued that Thanksgiving week is actually pretty hectic. People are trying to squeeze 5 days worth of work in 3 days, typically. None of that, all that to be said, a lot of businesses start making big budget cuts at the end of their fiscal year, which is usually in October, or the end of Q3 at the regular, year end, which is obviously December to January. A lot of companies start making big budget cuts. And I remember this very clearly when we started our agency, Zack. That was a humble reminder in January of 23 when we lost like so much revenue. It was like, wow, what happened? Like we were doing great. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 we lose like $20,000 in reoccurring revenue in 1 month. And we're like, what the heck?
Yeah, that hurt. And that was early days of the business. And we didn't really account for that churn, right? We didn't think it was going to happen, or at least that abruptly. We felt pretty confident. And something else you need to know is that at least Advertis's business model on the white label side, it's month to month, right? But a lot of other agencies do yearly contracts or yearly retainers. So when you get to Q4, that's when those businesses start to think, hey, do we need this agency? Do we not? How much of this agency do we need? Do we need to cut budget? Do we need to increase budget? What's the case? And a lot of agencies may charge based on total marketing spend, right? Not just, flat rate for services. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Really spans the gambit. And we have other videos on how to price agency services. That's not what this is about. But as you get to the end of the year, everyone's thinking about budgets. And usually all leaders, business leaders within really any company is being asked, hey, what kind of budgets are we expecting for 2026 for the new year, so that they can get that planned out with their finance team, right? And that's usually when marketing is or is not on the chopping block.
Yeah, I think it's probably sales. That's the sales department's like, do we really need marketing? Or no, it's operations. That's probably what it really is.
Or a little both.
Yeah. And then after Q1, sales is like, wait, where'd marketing go again? We need those inbound leads. Where did those go?
Yep.
They're like, I can't hit my quota.
True. That's so true.
Yeah, but I think, being an agency owner specifically, you're probably experiencing you're going to start seeing a decline in business coming if you're mostly working with service-based companies, obviously depending on the industries you work with. But I think a lot of times we've always found that those types of companies, like home service based companies, any consumer services, you're usually going to see a decline in marketing spend to save that money, but also because they don't want to take on a whole bunch of work during the holidays,
Yep. The
and
only
that's true.
ones that make it pretty well is e-commerce. If you're selling online in a product-based company, and usually what you're selling is like $100 or less, you're ramping that up on Black Friday, holidays, gift giving season, Christmas, New Year's. But even then, as soon as January is done and over with,
Yep,
those spends usually plummet. So
precisely.
it's only 30 days difference. It's still marginal, and you still need to prepare for it.
So what do we do when we're preparing for the end of year? And I think when we're thinking about potential budget cuts or churn and in our clients or in revenue in general, how can we prepare for those moments? Speaking with all the experience over the last several years, let's talk about some of the things that we've had to do to pivot and help our other partners pivot from these moments.
Yeah. Well, the mentality you need to get into is don't expect to sell anything starting December 1st. And if you have that mentality in your business, then you're going to push your pipeline or your sales team or your clients to either renew, upsell, cross-sell, or to get that new prospect into the door, right?
And I'd even say, like, I started pushing on our sales team in Advertis probably in September, October. Like,
That's
hey,
smart.
we're going to experience a loss in revenue, and there may even be a higher churn rate coming into the holidays. We need to sell more. And I would, that would include, if you're the owner, you have the option to increase incentives to get the sales team more active.
Yes.
Give them promotions to like go out there and, get those little clients that are on the edge, like get them over that edge. Like, here's a little deal that we can do. Give them the autonomy to come up and create some of their own deals, which is what you want. And I think, for us, when I looked ahead from the years, leading up to this year, I kind of took the data from the last 2 years and I said, okay, this is how much sales we had the last quarter. How can we increase that? That's the question you want to ask yourself. How can we increase that amount?
Yeah, exactly. And something you've done that's a great job, Ozzy, you've really done a wonderful job incentivizing people, right? And there's two ways that you need to incentivize. And Ozzy's done this in Advertis and our other businesses. You need to incentivize your sales team, whoever is selling the stuff that you are offering. You need to incentivize them to try to close more deals, right? So, and then after that, you need to incentivize the person you're actually selling to, which for Advertis is the agency partner. If you're an agency working directly with clients, it's the client, right? And you've come up with a couple amazing ways to incentivize both. But let's talk about how to incentivize a sales team to close more business in Q4 before the winter slump really hits.
Yeah, I think for sales, all salespeople need to be incentivized. I mean, I'm one of those people too, so I understand. Matter of fact, to record content for our channels, I had to ask Zack at our trip, I need to be incentivized somehow to do this because it's, it just takes work, and most salespeople at heart are like that. And so to Zack's point, when you're building incentives for your sales team, you want it to be like think of a dangled carrot, like the old Looney Tunes cartoons or, whatever. Think of a carrot. And you want it to be within reach, but you don't want it to be too far out of sight, right? And, what I would do is, you can give them bumps on their commission rates. For our team internally, we pay them a flat rate. Depending if they're on salary and they're not straight commission, they get paid a straight 15 to 20%. And the kicker is if they hit above their goal, they get up to 25%. Or I'm sorry, they do get 20%. They get a kicker of 20% commission on the base salaries. And if you're not on a salary, you get 30%. And so it's very much like we're trying to incentivize our sales teams to try to reach their goal and go beyond. And then another thing that we do is I give out little bonuses based on their performance. I'm measuring their KPIs weekly. So we use HubSpot, and within HubSpot, I can track weekly performance metrics through their dashboards, like how many tasks they're completing and how many follow-ups they've done, how many emails they've sent, like all these little nuanced things that salespeople do. Whoever does the most that month, I will send them a $100 gift card. something like that. So the goal is not, because here's the other thing about sales is if you're going to incentivize them to close business, you need to incentivize them to do more work, because just like in any other position, when they're out there quoting deals and they're doing their follow-ups, they're doing their, their prospecting, all that, the performance stuff, that's where they get the deals. That's where they get the sales. So if you incentivize them to do those things as well, then usually you will find a problem. If they're not closing enough business, but they're outperforming everyone on the team, okay, that means they probably got a close problem. Like, okay, now we need to focus on them closing. So incentivize them to do things that's related to their job to help them get that probability to close more business up, basically.
I like what you said before. I think I brought up a problem to you about a year and a half ago. And the problem was, gosh, I just don't think we're getting enough leads. Like, I just don't think we're getting enough conversations, appointments booked, and at bats. And you said, okay, well, which one of those is most important? I said, well, I guess if I had to choose one, it would be, I want more booked appointments on our sales team's calendars to talk with agency owners. And you said, okay, great. I'm going to add an additional incentive that if they meet with, 20, 30 agency owners every single month, then they get a kicker. They get an additional bonus, whatever that is, like additional $500 or something like that. And I thought that was a brilliant idea, because what you're doing is you're rewarding your team, your sales team, for the very specific task and the very specific outcome that you want. And then you're writing it down and you're putting it on paper, and then they're very clear that that's what they want to do. Now, as we all know, we hit that goal, and now they're meeting with those agency owners all the time. But then the conversation becomes, okay, now we actually need to move those to the close. So how can we incentivize them to actually follow up and move them to the close? So there's always going to be, some weaker link in the pipeline, in the journey, but that's an opportunity, A, for training, and B, to incentivize. Because if you only incentivize people when business is closed, then guess what? They're only going to hunt after the bottom of funnel, basically already closed won leads that come into the door. And at that point, do they really need to be sold? Do they really need to be nurtured?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Well, and that's the point that, like, you make a good point with the their daily performance stuff. If they're incentivized to do those things, usually they'll go above. And something we're not talking about is it is the holidays. So even your team internally, they are also, you as the leader of your agency, or whoever's leading your agency, part of your responsibility is to keep them active, because they're also going to be distracted by family and stuff like that. And so, obviously within grace, like, we want to be graceful because we all work together, but you want to hold them accountable to their role and what they do in their daily job. And so part of being a leader in your company is making sure that everybody is performing at their level they normally perform at. And so if you're able to measure those things and show them that you're measuring those things, then they will hold themselves accountable without you having to have a conversation usually. And again, goes back to incentivizing them, et cetera. Something else that I have been really focused on lately when it comes to our sales team is looking at the reactivation of deals. One really cool benefit, if you're an agency or a business in general who has been in business for more than a few years, you probably have a pipeline. And what I mean by that is not necessarily a pipeline that's active, but a pipeline that is that needs to be reactive. And we call it a reactivation pipeline. And essentially what that is deals that you've quoted in the past, or people you've talked to in the past have, you've created that deal flow somewhere in your pipeline, and it's gone to close lost, or it's gone to, like, it's just kind of dead. Your sales team during the holidays, if they're not getting as many deals, that is a great opportunity for them to start working up some of those reactivation deals. And that's a place that a lot of businesses fail, is the follow up. And a lot of sales team, they only want to focus on what's hot. But what I've found in our experience is, any given month, we can close an extra 5 to 10K in revenue just from following up with deals that were going to close last year.
100%. Yeah, that's so true. Or even previous clients, just reaching back out to them, reaching back out to your original point of contact. You find that most clients, when they stop working with an agency, it's usually not because they're angry with the agency or they're unhappy with, it usually has to do with budgets being cut, or the performance of that very specific campaign just didn't produce as much revenue as initially hoped for or intended. And a lot of times clients walk away and say, look, we don't need to do Google ads anymore. We don't need to do Facebook ads anymore. It's a lot of ad spend, but you guys are great. You guys did a wonderful work. We just don't think this is worth pursuing anymore because we're not getting the bang for our buck, essentially. And if you reach back out to them in 6 months, more often than not, they'll take a call with you. They'll catch up. You have intimate knowledge in their business already. So you can already talk to them about, hey, did you try something else? How's this specific business problem going? Did you find a solution? And usually they'll say, yeah, we haven't really done anything about it at all. And we're still in
Seriously.
the same spot that we're in previously. And it's like, well, have we thought about this different thing that we haven't tried? It's like, well, maybe it would be time to try something like that. And you can pitch them on something else. You can cross-sell them into something different. And I think it feels uncomfortable as humans where we think, oh, well, they left the agency and they just don't like us anymore. When in reality, there's some gold right there. Like Ozzy said, you can get an extra 5 to 10K close just by reaching out to previous clients you've worked with, or even asking for a referral. Hey, I know that this didn't work out well for your business, or you guys had to pivot and change plans, but is there somebody else you think that would be served greatly by this? And it's like, yeah, there is this one person that I know. And then you got a lead. You got a brand new lead.
That's
and
right.
It's a referral and it's warm.
Amen. And you know what else? I will call out the obvious. If your sales team, or even if you're just doing the sales yourself, you're like, and that's really uncomfortable to reach out to people that we haven't worked with in a while. Yep, it sure is. That's what makes sales hard, right? But I'll give you a little tip. What I always tell my team is, look, yeah, it's awkward. So who cares? But the tip is, it's the holidays. You care about people. I care about people. It's a great time to actually reach out to people and genuinely check in on them. Hey, how's it going? Happy holidays. Really great. I was thinking about you the other day. You don't have to make it always about business as much as you're just trying to focus on that relationship. And I think a lot of people get in their own heads when it comes to sales, but the people out there leading their sales teams, just remind them, like, we're people too. This is not just about business. And, agencies especially, most of the time, the clients you're working with, you have some sort of personal relationship with them. And if you don't, then your sales team does for sure. Somebody has a relationship with your client at some point. And that's a really great opportunity. Something else that I think is worth mentioning is account management. Let's talk about, it's the end of Q3 and you have a list of clients that you're rating as potential, like gonna offload soon. There's a concern. And what I think we've done a really good job of, Zack, with our team is with account management, we're kind of preparing for those things. We're like, okay, like this client seems a little upset. What can we do to make this client happy? I think I would encourage a lot of these agency owners who have that account manager and the sales team, especially if you got them combined, which is really great. We always tell our teams to come together. And, we actually just created a change order process internally for our teams, and where our account managers, they manage the relationships when an account onboards. In our sales team, they're called partner success managers. They actually nurture the relationship with the agencies. They actually help the agencies sell. They help them get new business in the door. But the account manager kind of takes it once it's closed and kind of moves it through and manages it with operations, almost like a project manager, but also an account manager. So what we did was we told our account management team, hey, if you feel like an account's going to fall off because you're in a biweekly cadence call or whatever it is, and I want you to have full autonomy to try to save that account. Whether you need to bring the price down, whether you need to upsell or cross sell, even downsell, that's another one. Whatever it means for us to save and retain that account, to work and be flexible with them, let's do it. And so what we did was we created a commission plan for our account managers, and then our sales team, the partner success manager, takes it on the admin side, writes the contract, gets it signed, gets the accounting purposes done. And we split the commission down halfway. And the reason why we did that is because we wanted to incentivize the sales team and the account management team to save that account. And so if you're in Q3 and you're looking at, I got 10 clients out of my 50 or 100 or whatever you have, and 10 of those look like they may fall off, go ahead and start being proactive and thinking with your account management team or your sales team, how can we save this account? Can we downsell them to keep them on? Can we cross-sell them? Can we offer them more value for what they're paying? Like, what can you do as an agency owner or as an agency team to retain that client? That's a huge one.
I like that you brought that up, Ozzy. because we were, I mean, we were in a call together and we are trying to think, gosh, it feels strange to me that that the account manager, the client success manager, the person in charge of making sure the project and the accounts are communicated and advocated for. And then we have an ad specialist, or an SEO specialist actually delivering service. But this account manager, they're in the calls with the clients all the time, talking back and forth with them in Slack all the time. And they will have a better pulse than anyone if an account is slipping, right? Performance isn't good, not getting the assets you need, clients unhappy, leads aren't what they thought it was going to be. Is more expensive than they considered, whatever the reason is, right? And I said, well, they should reach out to a sales rep to get that sales rep on the phone with the client, with the agency, to try to talk about performance and save the account and continue retention, right? And potentially downsell or cross sell into another platform. Say Google Ads is sucking, well, cross sell into Facebook. Say the Google Ads that they're doing is like really marginal. They're only spending like $300 a month on ad spend. It's nothing. Well, maybe they could benefit from just consulting, not even proactive management, just consulting.
That's
That
right.
would be a downsell, but you would retain at least that client, that agency, that revenue. And you said, well, we could just let the sales rep go and just close it. And I said, well, that doesn't seem fair. How does that motivate the account manager to want to save the account themselves? They're probably overwhelmed trying to get less accounts on their plate,
Yeah.
trying to manage their current workload. How do we motivate the account manager to think in their mind, I want to save this account and there's something different I can do to save it. And I'll work with whoever I need to work with in sales to save it.
Also,
And
timing matters a ton.
yes.
Because if that client's already made a decision, they're just waiting to have that conversation. Whereas the account manager they're the first to hear it. They can start to save
First
it
to
in
hear it.
time.
Yes. And fun fact, when people buy something new, they're in a buying window. They're in a very short, a very narrow buying window. It's also true if they cancel something. Fun fact, they are also in a buying window. It's a more difficult buying window, but still a buying window nonetheless, because odds are they're replacing it with something different. They're using that budget and those dollars for something different. It usually is not that they do not have those dollars anymore to spend. They're just reprioritizing where to spend those dollars. I told Ozzy, I don't think this is fair that the account manager is one that identified this, and then they're giving the commission to the sales rep. And I said, I don't think it'll really incentivize the account manager to care to get one less task off their plate. And Ozzy said, well, why don't we split the commission? And it was a light bulb moment. It was like, duh.
Yeah.
Can we do that? Yes, we can. Why can't we?
How are we going to track that? Then all the other problems start. Like, how are we going to track them? Like, oh, we could do this, we could do that. And it just like naturally came about. And by the way, the team loved it. They loved it because, originally our sales team, they didn't get commission on change orders. Right. And that was a big deal. So when I came back to them and we created, by the way, that's a whole conversation.
A whole conversation of itself.
When you implement new things like that, you have to create SOPs, you have to train everybody, you have to like make sure it's set up to be tracked properly. Like it's a whole thing. So I created all that stuff for the sales team and the account management team. And when I introduced it, literally 3 days later, I couldn't believe it did all that in 3 days. It was crazy, but they loved it. They were like, wow, this is great. Like, our account managers got an extra bonus that they weren't expecting. Our sales team got an extra bonus that they weren't expecting. And everybody was happy, including us, because now we know both sides are incentivized to retain without Zack or I as business owners having to be too involved. And that's the hope. That's what you want as a business owner.
Yeah. Before, the motivation for an account manager to retain an account that's being lost was, okay, well, my boss wants me to, right? Okay,
Yeah.
sure. And then before, the motivation for a sales rep to try to retain a current account that they already got commission for, that they're not as involved with anymore, was practically nothing, right? So we aligned the expectations, we implemented incentives, we put it into a system and an operating procedure, and they're excited, they're happy, and now they're working really hard to save accounts, to cross-sell accounts, to upsell accounts, to downsell accounts, because they get more money from it each time, right? It doesn't have to be a completely new client. It can be the same client that they're getting money on over and over and over again. And what's also really nice is that the client the client, the agency partner, they feel very cared for by more than just the leadership of the team. They feel cared for by all members of the team because they're incentivized to care.
Also, it creates this competitive nature within our team internally, which is great, by the way, for sales. You know, I could talk on this stuff forever, but essentially what it did was now the account management team has the opportunity to upsell things for change orders, because that's what we call it, a change order. So when we onboard an account, if one of our account managers, Kyle, I just said his name, Kyle, is to like say, okay, hey, like, have you thought about doing meta ads on this? It creates a safety net, because if your sales team didn't upsell meta ads, like retargeting ads or something, then it's likely that your account management team could offer that if they see the benefit in the strategy. And then it becomes this actual change order. Now the account management team's incentivized to do that because they have a commission outside of that. So, and then they have someone else helping take it to the finish line.
Yep. Let's make this an example for people watching this. So if you own an agency and let's say you're selling SEO services, right? And you've done SEO services for a roofer for the last 12 months, right? A decently sized roofer. You're getting paid well for it. And it's getting to the end of the year and they're looking at like what they're paying for and the amount of leads they're getting. And they're thinking to themselves, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze. We might cancel or change it. I think there's a lot of issues going on where like people are saying they don't like our website. It looks crappy. Maybe I'm going to start thinking about just kind of taking a break and reevaluating, which you don't want, right? But that's your chance. That's your buying window to instead come back to them and say, hey, I hear you. You feel like SEO hasn't been giving you what you asked for or what you wanted this year in 2025. I think the problem is your website sucks. And I think even when people visit your website, I think people don't like how to navigate it. People are not converting. You do not have any offers. Your pages are kind of glitchy. And I think the issue is that you need a better designed website. Let's take a pause on SEO, cross-sell, and now I'm going to sell you a website. And they say, oh, okay. And then after the website, we can continue SEO services and see how that does. Yes, Mr. Client, we definitely can. So you sell them on a website, you take a pause for Q1 of 2026, and then now you sell them back on SEO after you finish the website and you've completed it. But in order to do all that, your team needs to be incentivized to do it. They need to be incentivized to want to move forward that way.
Exactly.
And the end of the year is kind of a great way to do that because you do have those unique buying windows to cross-sell, to upsell into. And if your account manager gets a little bit commission to suggest that himself of like, yeah, seems like the biggest issue to your SEO success is a crappy website. Like, let's get that change, man. They'll trust the account manager, basically did the selling for you without having to bring in the salesperson. Boom. You get the commission.
Yeah. And if you are an agency owner and you aren't partnered with Advertis, what that really looks like is our team is identifying upselling opportunities for you and even helping you sell that. That's a part of our partnership. So our partner success team comes in behind the account management team, will help you educate your client to get them over that sales, objections. And then we help you close it and then onboard it. That's part of our partnership.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
To Zach's point, incentivizing them. Now, I will just throw it out there that if you're not partnered with us, as you can see, we incentivize our team to help your business grow. So your business will grow if you partner with us.
Amen.
So that's the nature of our team. But Zach, really great conversation today. I think, what I would like to share is if you are an agency owner and you are looking to grow your agency, just reach out to us. We are happy to provide some sort of value to you, whether it's just a consultation to see where you are currently, to see if you're even qualified, or even if it's just, hey, like, I need help with this one client account, whatever it is, we want to help you. And part of the nature of what we've built here in Advertis is that our goal is to serve as many businesses as possible under this umbrella. And especially if you're an agency owner, we empathize with you. We're also agency owners. We get it. So feel free to go to our website. You can go on the contact us now, put in the note section that you watched our show or you want to talk, that you had seen this, you want help. It's all included. We don't charge anything for these things because that's just what we've built here. And by the way, if this show gave you any value whatsoever, give us a like, comment below, let us know who you are. And we're super excited that you're all here listening, and follow us for more content. We're excited. Thanks.
Thank you.